researched lasers, didn't we? I built a couple in my pocket. They take 20 seconds to build, though, so it's probably something that you want to build in a factory.
Yes, quite definitely something you want to build in a factory. Thank you very much for that. Now, I've actually got a few because I was testing around with lasers, much like Shen. I've got quite a lot ready, but this is definitely something, as Shen mentioned, that you really want to aim to have a factory do for you, because otherwise you are going to be spending an awful lot of time making these. 20 seconds is, doesn't sound like much, but when you need like 5 per defensive outpost, it starts to add up very, very quickly.
Well, the good thing about it is the recipe is very easy. It's steel, green circuits, and batteries. So once you've done like we did, you have a steady amount of batteries coming through your base, you can build lasers no problem.
I'm just going to set this area up. We're going to have a single chest just gathering the lasers for us, because we're going to need a reasonable amount, but nowhere near the amount that a steel chest can contain. So we're going to limit this to just 2 slots. Now, as you can see, that's exactly the amount that I've got on me at the moment, which is 100. Lasers stack to 50. We are going to drop in these here, and we should be good to go. I would suspect. There we are. Perfect. So there we are. Now, they need 12 batteries, 20 electronic circuits, and 20 steel. For those who are interested, that's about... What's wrong?
There we go. I just didn't have the belt extended to this one. This one couldn't reach his batteries.
Oh, no.
He was crying out for batteries.
But that's, roughly speaking, how many electric circuits that we're producing. We can produce the amount of electronic circuits in the time period for 4 laser factories to use. And we are overproducing in terms of batteries and obviously steel as well. Or hopefully we're making more than 20 steel every 20 seconds or 1 steel a second. It would be quite bad at this late stage of the game if we weren't. But this is going to illustrate something. It'll take a little while to filter through, but you can possibly see it just over here in the middle by the buffer system. We are consuming copper a fair bit faster than we are now making it. And that's something we're going to have to look at throughout this episode. We'll just keep coming back just to see how bad that might be getting and whether we need to address it. I suspect we probably will. What do you think, Shen?
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to have to increase the copper production. And it's not so much that we don't have a good copper field that we're tapping. Our copper field's great. It's simply our copper smelting has not been upgraded since the dawn of time. And we're going to have to make that a little bigger.
Yes,
and
pretty much.
That's something that'll happen in your game as you progress, especially towards blue science, which we're getting very close to.
Yes.
As you get towards blue science, you're going to use way more copper than you did before. So expect to have the need to increase your copper smelting.
Now,
but to get blue science, we need something else. And what is that?
That will be red circuits.
All right. Well, we have plastic produced, which is great. Green circuits, we know how to do that, and copper cable. That's simple.
Yep. So it's just a matter of bringing
easy recipe.
Yeah, but bear in mind that red circuits is something you're going to use a lot of. Whereas we've been basically making our green circuits local to where they're needed. Once you get to red circuits, the infrastructure required to produce red circuits, it doesn't make sense to carry that everywhere where you're going to need to make them. It makes a lot more sense at that point to bring along all of the stuff to one place and just produce masses of red circuits and then filter that out to where it's needed to be used. Would you agree with that, Shen?
Oh yeah, red circuits are in many recipes, especially robotics.
Later on, they use a lot of them, and they're not a quick thing to make, but they are used in vast amounts. But one thing I will touch on before we get to that is we did have to expand our power as well. We are starting to run a little bit low on power, and the moment we set up lasers, as you can imagine, that's going to get even worse. So we've doubled the amount of, or almost doubled the amount of power that we're producing, but I think whilst we're sat here talking, there's a couple of things that we can look at which will help us with power as well, just to get the research rolling. Solar energy, that's more of a later stage thing because we can set up solar farms, but something that we can use in conjunction with solar energy is practically necessary, but something we can already use now with lasers is electric energy accumulators 1. Now,
Definitely.
An accumulator, as the name implies, it stores power. we use them in real life in different sorts of ways. But effectively, the idea with an accumulator is you're putting energy into it when you're overproducing, and then if there's a sudden peak in energy consumption which outstrips your production, the accumulator will start to discharge to just kind of shore up that shortfall in production. We do it in very, very myriad different ways in real life, using dams and that sort of thing for our power plants. Just the peak consumption can really rapidly increase over silly things. Lasers will be that, because they're not always going to be firing, but when they are, they're going to drain an awful lot. And if it's a big attack, a lot of lasers might be involved. So you definitely want that kind of backup. You don't want to just be relying on what you're producing. So I'm going to drop down a couple of lasers. I notice we're getting a couple of attacks up here, so I'll just pop those there. Now, the nice thing with lasers, they've actually got a longer range than regular guns, which means that they can shoot over the top. They've got a range of 25, and regular guns have got a range of 17, so you can just line them up behind the guns that you've already got, and they'll just shore up the defenses. Now, Shen, what shall we do with regards to our current red circuit production, or rather our plans for?
Well, we have a nice area that we've cleared out most of the trees for. We're going to get started red circuit production in this area, and it's simply a matter of small area for green circuits, bring in a line of copper so we can get some copper wires, and bring up our plastic from the south. We have a line of plastic coming up from our oil industry area. We just haven't used it yet. So this is the first opportunity for using our red circuits, or for using our plastic.
Okay. Now, the other things that we use here is electronic circuits. 2 electronic circuits every 8 seconds. That is going to be something very easy for us to match. Again, I said that we are going to need a lot of red circuits, so whatever design that we settle on here needs to be expandable. Right now, we're not going to need that many, but later on, we're going to want to be producing a vast number of these in any given period of time. So, Shen, if you'd like to start laying down a kind of basic plan of where you want this factory to be with a mind to expansion, I'll run a line of the plastic up to meet you.
Sounds like a plan.
I'll get rid of all of these yellow belts that I've been accumulating since I've started using red belts. They're clogging up my inventory, damn it.
I know. But can't you put them into the...
You can, yeah. Yeah, I probably will with whatever I'm left over with here.
Just recycle them, man.
There we go. Now, having this plastic line just running up through the factory, it's not going to be particularly aesthetically pleasing. There are lots of other ways that we could do this, and later on we may actually even look into a couple of them. This is getting very tight around this bus. I don't like that. I really generally don't like having everything in one space. Where is the plastic going to need to come into this formula, Shen? Where are you thinking?
Near the middle, so come up about where I'm standing.
Okay. And then
the
across
to the left.
Okay, I'll get that done for you right away. Also, while we're waiting, since we've researched electric accumulators and the next one requires blue science, which we can't get to, and that's ultimately what we really want to get to, I'm going to go ahead and research something that we haven't done for a long time, and that is concrete.
Concrete, oh right.
Yes.
So what is special about concrete? What does it do?
Well, we haven't really covered paving at all, but concrete is effectively a better version of paving. Now, the way that paving works is, as you might imagine, if you're walking on paving, you move faster. Also, it looks nicer, in my opinion. Concrete is just a better version of that. Now, I can quickly demonstrate paving by placing some down. If you select a paving tile, it'll give you a little cursor. You can increase or decrease the size of this to 1 tile, 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, so on and so forth. As far as I'm aware, it will use the correct number of bricks per tile. But let's quickly demonstrate this. I'll use a 3x3 and I'll just run it along here. It sounds very loud, I do apologize. But if Shen and I both stand here, like if you come over here, Shen.
Oh, you want to run along it so we can show the difference in speeds? All right, get on the paving.
You ready? Go.
3, 2, 1, go. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Look at that difference in speed.
Now
this is the starter level paving. Once we get concrete, it's even faster.
Indeed. And you can do all sorts of things with it. You can collect it by right-clicking. It's a little bit time-consuming to collect it all up, but you'll get back the stone bricks. Now, these are bricks and not actual raw stone, so just bear that in mind. You do need to bake these bricks. And later on, concrete, it isn't a flat upgrade from this. You don't take bricks to make concrete, or at least I don't believe you do. Let me just double check that. Oh no, you do actually use bricks. You use the bricks and you convert the bricks into with some iron and water, and that makes concrete. And then you just lay it in much the same way that we've laid the bricks here. I'm sorry about the noise of me collecting all of that. But another thing to bear in mind is vehicles are also affected by paving. So if you've got tiles, bricks down, or concrete, your cars are going to move faster. But also, you will move faster on the belts themselves. It multiplies the effect of moving on the belts. It shouldn't really,
Right.
but
Which
it does.
Interesting.
Just something to be aware of. You can do things, as we showed with the biters earlier. One way of dealing with the biters is just have belts pushing them away from the walls. If you put down things like paving, you can really multiply that effect to the point that biters will have a very difficult time getting to your walls,
yes.
because they're going to be having to fight against so much momentum carrying them away.
Oh, yes. And I keep running out of inserters and blue factories.
Yes. This is why we automate these things. We will use a lot of them over
Oh,
time.
yes.
Now, one thing we probably do need to look into doing is increasing our production of, well, not so much rail track, but definitely we probably want to look at getting automated red splitters and underground belt. We're currently only making the belt itself. That is going to be squirrely to do, though, to say the least. So we're probably going to leave that one for a little while.
Yeah, something like that will probably show you the result of it after we've laid it out, just because it's something you're going to want to do eventually, but it's not like an absolute necessity for every factory.
No.
It's just something that you probably want, maybe you want. It's up to you. It depends on how much of the upgraded belts you use in your factory.
It is quite a shame that these things are not one tile larger.
What things? Oh, the power plants?
Yeah, the power plants.
Yeah.
Such a shame.
Do you think this is enough green circuits to get started with red? I think so.
Yeah, I think so. This will be a lot of green circuits for what we're going to be using.
If we look at the main bus here, this is a really good example of how much copper is being used now compared to previously. Because before we set up the laser turrets, this copper line was full. It was just completely full of copper, and it's not anymore. Not even close. So yeah, we're going to have to increase our copper smelting by quite a lot.
Steel as well, I noticed. We're not going through the
yes.
steel nearly as fast. Though once this is filled up, it'll start just backstuffing the belts. I've just dropped off a couple of the laser turrets that I had just to expedite that process, but that isn't a solution. We needed to be able to maintain this production over a long period of time.
Right. There's some materials you may be comfortable with just only being produced occasionally and then having like a small stockpile, and that may have a severe impact on your factory's throughput for its main bus, just because that particular part of your factory uses so much material.
Yeah.
But if it's only a small amount, like our lasers, there's only going to be 100 lasers in that box.
Yeah.
It's not going to be running all the time.
As much as I wish it would.
More lasers.
Indeed. Right, I'm just going to set up the power poles over here as well, and then we should be good. Let's get you going. One there, and one down there. Okay, right, so we are set up here. Now, what's the next step, Mr. Shen?
Well, this is our green circuits, and if we check the formula, we need 2 of these, we need 2 plastic, and we need 4 copper cable. So we already have some copper coming up for the green circuits. So we're going to need to get another copper coming up for the red circuits, because the green circuits will surely use a lot of the copper on their own. They're very copper hungry, and this is another sign that we need to increase copper production, because this particular facility that we're setting up is going to be really hungry on consumption of copper.
Yeah.
Wait, did I do that wrong? I did that wrong. Oops.
That's all right. We forgive you.
Just this one time, right? Just this one.
Yeah, only once. You only get one forgiveness, I'm afraid.
All right, so we're starting to produce some green circuits. Hooray, hooray.
Yep, that's
and we have our
perfect.
plastic.
But yeah, our copper is so badly damaged. But as you can see there, lasers very quick to put down the Biter
Oh,
Menace.
did we just have an attack? I see, I see.
They're still getting a little bit close to
those
our
are the mediums,
cannons,
huh?
but
The red ones.
yeah. They're still getting a little bit close to them, but not too much. At this point, I will probably be making a note. Well, actually, we've got a little bit of an attack down the south. So I'm going to go and drop off some laser turrets down there as well.
Okay.
Next time there is an attack, I'll try to watch the power consumption when the laser's kicking, because
Oh,
it
you
is...
can watch the spike, yeah.
Yeah, it is quite considerable. You really shouldn't underestimate how much power lasers are going to start consuming once you start augmenting your defenses with them. I will say again, though, while a lot of people do like to just completely switch over to lasers once they've got it, and they'll scale up their energy production to manage it, I really like to use lasers in conjunction with regular guns.
We have things blowing up.
Ooh, we do indeed.
In Ironton, they're probably out of ammo.
Oh, right. They must have used quite a lot, because I did restock that. You may want to head over there, Shen.
All right, well, that's a good opportunity to show off lasers, so I guess I'll abandon my production over here, and we'll go save part of our factory. I hope the train is nearby, so I can catch that and make it nice and quick.
It won't be. We both know this. Wherever you need the train won't be.
The train was never in the right spot.
It was quite
it's
often
here.
there when I was
It's
running
here.
for it, but it
Enter.
would leave.
I'm on the train.
Really? What kind of weird
It's voodoo magic.
deals have you done with the train conductor? That is just... Ah, I am very disappointed.
I think it just arrived because we're still here.
Okay.
Come on, little train.
All right, there we go.
I'm not going to alter its schedule because
No.
the attack has already been deterred, so there's no real necessity to get over there. But what happens is if you get attacked in the same place multiple times, you're going to be happy that you have lasers because you don't have to keep refueling it with ammo.
Yeah.
That's the main bonus of lasers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, the attacks over here. The
Yeah.
number of corpses is nuts. Look at this arc of spitters. Wow.
It's
I
going to
like
be quite impressive, yeah.
it. All right, yeah, they took out one turret. And it wasn't out of ammo. They just simply focused it down.
Oh, wow. Well, the nice thing about turrets is they do a reasonable amount of damage. If we have a look at the guns, they have a shooting speed of 10 plus 7 seconds. And the lasers have a shooting speed of 3 plus 2, 1 second. Not quite as fast. Much better range. The damage of a gun is based on its ammo. So in this case, it would be like 5 plus 2, so 7 physical. The laser, 20 plus 8 laser. Well, actually, let me just hover over one of these and see what it is. Damage is 4 plus 3, 8, 4 physical for our current guns. Or 10 plus 9, 6 physical if we've got the piercing ammo loaded. And the laser is 20 plus 8, so a reasonable bit more than that. It's about 50% more at our current level of research. Now, bear in mind, we have been researching laser damage and laser shooting speed off camera, so don't be too surprised if your lasers, when you first get them, don't perform quite as well as ours will. We've just been tweaking the research to make sure that we're always doing something while we're off camera.
Right. We do spend a lot of time getting things done, and while we're not recording, like, you know, planning the episode ahead, figuring out where we're going to put stuff around in the factory and stuff. And you may do this in your game when you're paused, and we've been doing it while we're live. So if we're going to be live while we're doing it, we might as well be researching at the same time.
Yeah,
hey, look, I'm ready to head home, and guess what's here, Avak?
I hate you.
Guess.
I hate you. I hate you.
But anyway, I went and I checked all the ammo. The ammo looks good on the rest of the outpost, so I'm not going to replace it with lasers there. It's probably fine.
Okay, that's fine then.
The place we're getting attacked is from the southeast. That little neck there between the two lakes. Okay. They're constantly coming up from there.
Right. So.
And yep, as we get closer and closer to sort of end game stuff. I don't want to say end game stuff because it's not really, but like robots.
Quite far from end game, yeah.
We're gonna be using so much electricity, especially switching over to laser turrets. We're using so much electricity that I think supplementing and even replacing a lot of our steam engines with solar will be a necessity just to prevent all these super large attacks that we keep getting.
Yeah. Right. Well, we need to get a little bit more work done on our red circuit factory. We've covered basically what we're going to be setting up here. So I think this is probably a good place for us to lay down a break in the episode. We can get the red circuit factory up and running, or at least in its basic form. And then when we return, we'll have got the red circuits going. We'll also expand the copper smelting, because we're clearly insufficient with that. We've got a deficiency of copper coming through. So what I'm imagining we'll do is we'll just double up our smelting operation, maybe even elongate it similar to the iron, because at this point we are using it in fairly large quantities. And then we can bring you back to see what we've managed to do.
Sounds like a plan. And once we have the red circuits, that means we can start hammering away on blue science. And that unlocks a whole lot of new research, including oil cracking, improved oil recipes, and all sorts of mid to end game research.
Oil cracking is a very, very important one for us because it massively improves the rate that we're going, just the efficiency of the oil that we're using for our fuel blocks. But before I leave you, I'm going to just start on solar research. Not something we're going to work on right away, but it's something that we will be thankful for when it's done ahead of time.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Factorio Beginner's Tutorial covering batteries, lasers, and the beginning of red circuits. We will see you all next time for the completion of red circuits and what hopefully will be the start of blue science.
Indeed. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to Factorio Beginner's Guide, where I am joined as ever by the violent Shenrir. Say hello, Shenrir, without shooting me.
Hello, Shenrir.
That's good. You didn't shoot me. I'm very glad about this. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We left off last time in the midst of getting ready for red circuit production.
Indeed.
We started with the green area, which is necessary before the red area.
Yep.
The green area is now done. We've added a copper wire area specifically so that we'd be able to expand our red circuit production later on.
The green circuit area we've got can produce a lot of green circuits in a very short space of time, and red circuits tend to take a little while to be made, so we do not need nearly as many green circuits to make a small amount. So we are really planning for the future with this, and as we've mentioned previously, you're going to use a lot of red circuits, so do try to plan with expansion in mind.
Yes. Okay, so we have our green area, we have our copper wires, we have our plastic coming up from the oil, and this is the only three components you need for the red circuits. It's a pretty simple recipe.
Now,
so up top
you may wonder why we've got the copper on its own line, whereas we've got the plastic and the green circuits sharing a line.
Yep.
It is possible to have them all on their own line, but it does make the logistics of getting them into the factory a little bit more complicated. So in this case, because the wires are used twice as much as plastics or electronics on their own, we thought that it would be best to have the plastics and electronics sharing a line because they use the same pace, while the copper wire is used at twice that pace.
It's just a simple matter of ratios.
Yeah.
It's a 2-to-1 ratio, so we have double the throughput of copper wires to the others. That's all.
Yep.
All right, and why don't we double this up right here? So we're going to put down a few more red circuit production here. What do they need? They just need some blue arms. Okay, blue inserters, no problem. You have some power poles on you?
I do indeed, and I will just quickly get some of the inserters on the other side over here. And we'll place down the power poles. Right, now this area, as we mentioned, is built with expandability in mind, and it isn't just this. Again, we're going to be using a lot of these. I've tried to really express how much red circuits you're going to need. It's going to be a huge number. So we're actually built with this in order to expand it even further. And that involves putting them on this side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to start working on putting down... Because I don't have enough factories. If you could help me out with that, Shen, I will...
Sure, I've got 23 in my pocket.
Start bringing these up.
Okay.
Now, this can be expanded in a number of ways, because what we've got right here is we've just got some extra factories on this side. We're trying to keep a wide column of these factories, so that way, as we expand further up, we've got a lot of room to grow, because we can then extend the length. It's much like our smelting operation, only with factories for this one.
Right. We're going double wide, so we have... it just makes it a lot easier to fit everything into like a square shape on the map. Instead of a really long rectangle, we're just going to have a nice square of production.
Yeah. Eventually, it'll probably become a rectangle as our needs grow. Unfortunately, you are going to use a lot of these. And as ever, shift right-click on a factory, copies what that factory is doing, then shift left-click, copy, pastes it onto another factory. So it speeds everything up a little bit for you. And there we go. All hooked up on this side.
So we've quadrupled our red production. Very nice.
Yep.
We'll bring up our
pop that there.
Red line here.
And pop this one there. There we go. Everything is hooked up. In fact, what we can do on this side is just do that.
And I'm not sure we mentioned it, but the reason why we're doing so much up here and we're bringing the belts down to the middle of the factory is because this is going to go onto the main bus.
Yes. Again, red circuits get used in so many things mid to late game that you're really going to want to be, rather than produce it locally, because as you can see, there's quite a lot of infrastructure involved in making red circuits, and not least of which is the plastic. I mean, plastic is made with oil, which is quite far away. So, unlike the green circuits, we can't really just make them where we're going to be using them, so it makes sense to have a very large production area of them, and then pipe that everywhere else that's going to need them.
Yep. So the first thing we're going to use red circuits for, and the reason why we went for them right now, is because we're getting backed up on oil. We're getting backed up on oil. Everything shuts down. We have to make more storage tanks for the heavy oil. The ratio of the oil production is just all wrong, but we can fix that with a little blue science, and blue science requires red circuitry.
We're actually almost out of things that we can put just red and green science into. I think just so that we've got research ticking over, I'm going to start looking at the electric engine.
Electric engine sounds good.
Researching now.
Okay. But what we have done down here is we've prepared an area for blue science production. So what do we need for blue science?
Well,
the recipe?
We've got 3 of the 4 things. Batteries, steel, and red circuits. But there is one thing I'm missing.
One thing missing is the smart inserter. And we haven't really talked about it much. We did use one earlier very briefly, but it's a very simple recipe. It takes a fast inserter, which we've already made, and 4 electronic circuits. That's it.
Yep.
Nothing else.
I've basically done almost everything but the last step over here previously in setting up our blue and red inserter manufacturing. Right. Unlike most of the inserters and the belts, where I'll often say once you're making them, you may as well just switch over to them. There's not really much point in switching over to green inserters. They are smart inserters. They are as fast as the fast inserters. So they are a flat upgrade, but it's an extra step that isn't really necessary. So what I like to do is make them as needed, or just have them made locally if they're going to be used in an assembly machine, and just keep the blue inserters that we're making for just use around the rest of the factory.
Yeah, sounds good. So we're going to basically use the same setup that Avac used up here, but with one extra step to turn the blue inserters into smart inserters at the end.
Yeah.
So
we're not going to have red inserters, though. That's worth noting.
No reds. So we're going to have a line of factories here. It's going to be very simple. And the line of factories will feed into each other. First factory is for gears. And gears only takes metal plates, iron plates.
Takes 2 per gear to produce at 0.5. Now, the nice thing about this is each of these factories are going to produce at exactly the same speed.
Correct. The second factory will be regular inserters, yellow inserters, and those require electronics, gears, and plates. So we have our plates here, we have our electronics right here, and we have our gears right here. It's a very simple recipe. The third factory is for blue inserters, fast inserters. And what do they take? 2 electronics, 2 plates, and 1 yellow inserter. Again, a very simple recipe.
Yep. I'll plot down. There we go. Fantastic. And
the last one
in there.
is a smart inserter. It does not need any iron plates, but it does take 1 fast inserter and 4 electronic circuits. So I'm going to give it 2 fast arms here, just so it gets all the circuits it needs. And at the very end here, it's just nice. I love this setup here for fast inserter, for smart inserters, because it goes from a gear to an inserter to a blue inserter to a smart inserter. It's just one into the next, and I love that.
It's a really, really simple little setup. And this produces it as fast as you can. The only holdup would be if you couldn't get the raw resources, or, well, the process resources, the electronic circuits and the iron plates down in sufficient quantity, because the factories all produce at the same speed. So assuming that they're all getting the materials that they want, it'll go as fast as it can.
Correct. So this leads directly into blue science. Now that we have our fast inserter, or I'm sorry, our smart inserters, we have batteries and smart inserters together on one belt, and we have advanced red circuits and steel plates together on the other belt.
Yep.
And those, as you can see, we're pulling together directly from our new main bus, which includes 4 materials. And it's just a really easy merging onto one line. There we go.
Now, the thing with blue science is they do take 12 seconds per science pack,
Right,
but they
they're
use
so long.
exactly the same quantity of materials. 1 battery, 1 advanced circuit, 1 smart inserter, and 1 steel plate. So in terms of balancing things, they're actually really, really easy to balance as far as things go, but they do take a long time. So you're going to generally want quite a few of them to keep science ticking along.
Yep. So I'm going to throw a couple down on this side. You want to put some on the other side?
I do not have any factories.
I'll do them for you. There you go. So we're going to
I
start off
will
with 8.
put down all of the inserters.
We can always do more than 8 later on, but 8's a good starting, nice round number.
Indeed it
It's
is.
a lucky number for some people.
Go grab some extra long-handed inserters. I'll be right back.
Oh, I have some for you, no problem.
Fantastic.
You have some power poles?
I do indeed. One of those there, one there, and we'll have some on the outside as well. And over here we should be good. There we go. So it's just a matter of pulling from the 2 belts. They are split belts, so it's all going into the right place. And then down here, we're going to merge them onto this new ring. You'll notice that I have brought all of our science facilities. In fact, we've expanded the amount of science facilities from where we used to have them. If we wander all the way over there, I'll just quickly show that we've not really done much more other than belt them all the way across to the new area, since it made sense to put them where the more complicated science was being constructed. But over here, we've just doubled up the amount of red science that we're producing, because previously we were making do with just 4 factories, but now we've upgraded that to 8 to match the 8 green science and the 8 blue science that we've got. That is not a particularly good amount of factories, because the red science only takes 5 seconds to make, the green science 6 seconds, and the blue science 12 seconds. So realistically speaking, if we want to balance this out properly, we would ultimately want to have about twice as many blue science factories as we've got green science factories. But this works out okay for now.
Okay, so we've left a little area here for the eventual final type of science, which would be purple science. Purple science, turns out, is very easy to produce. We'll talk about it when it's ready to do, but we're not going to require a giant assembly area like you will for blue science. Purple science requires just one little factory. That's it. Okay, so that is blue science. You can see everything is ticking along. All these little factories are churning away. They're making as many science pack 3s as they can. And we've relegated it to just the inside track. Purple will be on the outside track when we get there. Okay. So now that we have blue science being produced, let's use it. Let's get oil. Oil, Mark.
Oil cracking is incredibly important for us, because we have had to expand our heavy oil storage. Yet again, because we were backed up on that, so it wasn't making any of the other types of products. So we're going to research this. It's not going to take us too long. Only 75 research operations, which each takes 30 seconds. But we've obviously spent some time increasing our lab efficiency. We've got quite a few labs. So as you can see, we're making our way through that very quickly. Now, this allows us for 2 things for us. Advanced oil processing. We take 10 crude oil and 5 water in the refinery instead of just crude oil, and it'll split it into 1 heavy oil, 4.5 light oil, and 5.5 petroleum gas. That is a much better ratio of the refined components than what we've got at the moment, because we just use them in a much closer ratio to that.
Right.
Furthermore, it allows us to crack. Now, cracking, for example, you could take petroleum gas with 3 water and 3 light oil and make 2 petroleum gas. But the one we're really interested in is 3 water, 4 heavy oil to make 3 light oil, which we're using for our fuel box. So it's going to give us even more fuel for our factory.
I've just noticed our copper production is very, very low. I believe turning on our blue science has caused us to produce more batteries. It's also caused us to produce a lot more copper wire. So that means our copper facility is working to the limit. But this is a really good test to see what part of your factory... I'm sorry?
I will say that our copper facility isn't actually working to the limit. The smelters themselves are backed up.
It's the buffer.
Throughput, yeah.
It's the buffer that's just not up to the task right now.
Yeah.
We have massively expanded our copper production, as you can see, but our buffer is just not up to snuff. We need more buffer.
Well, one of the things that we could do, and I know this is going to be crazy, we can expand the buffer, as you're pointing out there, or, alternatively, what we could do instead, if you bear with me a moment, I'm going to place this there, and then this there. Now, don't...
What?
Well, actually, what we'll do instead... I know, I'm a madman. It's been said many times. We are going to go in there, and instead of having a buffer, just have the buffer on the bottom.
Oh, have a pass-through? Oh,
yeah.
That's a good idea.
Because we're having an awful lot of trouble with our buffer at the moment, and we could just do this.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I like the idea a lot. A pass-through makes sense.
We should probably do similar with our iron, which,
the iron,
as you can see, is
We've expanded our iron buffer just a bit.
Just a tiny little bit.
We doubled it.
I think I'm going to go ahead and make a pass-through for that.
Yeah, I like this idea a lot.
I lack the ability to pick things up. I am full of iron, unfortunately.
Okay, well, while he's doing that, I'm going to go down here and get excited about doing some advanced oil processing. I've got a whole bunch of, what are they called, chemical plants in my pocket. I'm building a few more. And that's to start cracking all of this heavy oil into light oil.
We are starting to run low on power a little bit there, but it looks okay now.
I tell you what we can do when we run low on power. We can start looking for a place to put down some solar panels. I've been eyeballing the map. Look at this giant space up here. There's barely any biters up there. We put some solar in there.
What are you thinking about?
North of our base is this giant expanse. I know you were talking to me about south of our oil production. There's this giant expanse, and it's already been walled off. So south would be good as well. All right, so we're almost ready for the oil. Oh, and it's just, I can't wait to take the recipe over. Oh, actually, our crude is dying. We need more crude.
Well, these pumps have been working bloody hard for a very long time.
If we mouse over these pumps, they're down to 0.2 per second, which is extremely low. It's not as low as they'll go. They'll go down to 0.1 at the very end of their lifespan. But they'll never run out, as we've talked about before. But since they're down to 0.2, we need to start looking to hook up a new oil field.
Definitely time for us to sort that out,
Yeah, so we'll do that soon.
I will do it now if I can.
Oh.
I've got 2 pump jacks, so
we can just move some of these beakers out of the way.
Yeah.
I will gladly move your beakers.
Thank you very much. Such a kind fellow.
Not there.
Okay.
Let's get squirrely. Ivac hates it when I get squirrely like this. I just don't care. He's over there having a fit.
So squirrely.
Why? Goodness. But yeah, even just a few little oil fields like that, just a tiny little amount will still make a big difference if you're down to your 0.2s and 0.1s. Okay, so advanced oil processing is done. So we can go to our oil refinery and we go to here, set current recipe, and we switch over to the advanced processing, which gives us 1/3 the amount of heavy, 50% more light oil, and a little less than 50% more petroleum gas. But it's really, really, really highly efficient. And I was right. I was right. I got the oil and the water on the right-hand side. I always get that wrong.
Very nice.
So when you switch over the recipe, it requires you to add water. So you don't want to hook up oil to both sides of your what are they called? Oil facility. What is it called? Oil refinery. That's what it is. My goodness, words. All right, but yeah, we did prepare by having one of the pipes dedicated to water, but we have not hooked it up to water yet. So where's the local water facility? I see one in the south.
There we are.
So I will hook that up.
Some new oil down your way.
Sounds good. I'm gonna get my offshore pump for this oil. I have a rock to shoot. Cheer me while I shoot. I'm victorious.
Well done. An epic battle, the likes of which will likely be sung about in sagas for generations.
When Shen got the water.
There we go. Right, I've got
another rock to shoot.
Fair few, well, 4 exactly pumps pumping down to you right now.
Sounds good.
We may as well just remove them, honestly.
I need one more pipe. Yeah. There we go.
It's not going to be a huge amount, but it's going to help out a little bit.
Okay, water has been hooked up. All 4 refineries are working full blast, and I see Abac has hooked up some crude.
Indeed I have. There we go.
Looks good to me.
Right, while you're looking at that, what shall we research? Now, we've got a couple of new things. Robotics is there. Don't cast your eyes towards robotics. That's for later. Instead... we could...
Let's do something that requires blue science.
Yes, let's do something that requires blue science. Let's have a look. We could start looking at explosives. We could look at the electric energy distribution. So we could aim for the substation, which is a very, very nice component there. We could look at flammables, which also builds into rocketry and flamethrowers. What else can we have a look at? I mean, there's something that I really want to get to. And that would be Military 3, because Military 3 unlocks a few new things. One of them is the combat shotgun. I kind of like the combat shotgun.
The combat shotgun.
We're going to need flammables and explosives, so how about we go... Well, we're going to have to go through both of those. They're not going to be too long to research. They only require green and red, but we'll get through them quickly.
So Military 3, I'm looking at it right now, requires rocketry. Rocketry, as Avac just said, requires flammables and explosives, which we can do right now. So let's get on it. Let's get cracking.
Yep,
you got it.
He's already on it.
It's already on it. Okay, so we have our heavy oil. Let's get cracking. We have the recipe. I've got 10 chemical plants? No, I have 26 chemical plants.
Well, now, bear in mind, you do not want to get rid of all of your heavy oil. You are going to use it for a few things. So one thing we could do is just keep a dedicated tank for heavy oil.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
I think that might be a good idea.
What I'm going to do, and the way we're going to do that, Abac, bear with me here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unhook this so that these tanks in the south is what I'm going to crack into light oil for now.
Yeah.
And this tank up here we'll leave untouched. We can use that for lubricant.
Okay, that's cool. The other way to do it, just for those who may be interested, you can, once you've built electric engines, now it does take some time, and we'll be getting to that later on to make the electric engines, but you can make a pump. Now, a pump obviously gives preference to pushing liquids in a certain direction, whereas right now our pipes mainly rely on pressure, so it can move in both directions. But you can set up like a little reserve tank with a pump pumping directly into it, so you know that once it's in that tank, it's not coming back. That way, you can kind of have this reserved area just kind of hidden away from view of your oil crackers. Now, let's see what Shen's up to down here.
I'm setting up some chemical
Something
plants
nefarious, I'm certain.
Heavy into light oil cracking. You can see the required inputs are heavy oil on the left side and water on the right. So thankfully we have some water down here, which Abac is hooking up for us. Very good. And we should have no trouble just getting these done. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm out of pipe again. Man, I'm running out of pipe. It's a good thing it's really quick.
Yep. There we go. Do I have any more pipe? No, but we are actually producing pipe, so we may as well grab it. Thank you for putting rocketry on here. That's very useful indeed.
It's such a quick research, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, bear in mind that we're not actually using blue science right now, but it still hasn't filled up the belt. Blue science it takes time to make. It really does. You shouldn't underestimate just how long it's going to take you to get it all. I'm going to grab 50 of these. This train is literally doing nothing for us right now.
Aw. Because, that was the stone train?
Yes. I think what we can do instead... actually, let me... Stop the train.
Stony.
There we go. I've just turned it off for now.
Stony.
There we go. There we are. Let me bring that down onto my hotbar.
Got it. Okay.
And then we want to take this up the top.
So when you hook up the heavy oil line, now this is where you need to keep your pipes well managed. You need to know where they're going. Yeah. So in this case, we have a lot of undergrounds, which we are using to avoid connecting.
Actually,
connecting
a little bit tighter.
Fluids that aren't the same.
Yeah.
So we want all the fluids to be the same. In this case, we have heavy oil draining into these chemical plants on only the left side. And to be careful that these pipes don't touch.
Yes.
And this is where it's nice to have undergrounds next to each other, because undergrounds next to each other do not pass liquids through. But overground pipes next to each other would, and they would mix these pipes, and you wouldn't want to mix these liquids. Never, 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 never. Do not mix. Do not mix under penalty of death.
It's not quite that severe. It just means you've got a lot of work because you've got to unmix them. Right.
So at the opposite side here, we have light oil coming out. And light oil, we want to go into our oil tanks up here. So I will run an underground this away.
And I will hook these up for you.
Looks good to me.
There we go.
Perfect.
I will get all of these connected together.
And this is something that we are only using the heavy oil from these disconnected storage tanks. These are no longer connected to our main oil refineries here. We can connect them up later if we wish. We might even remove them if they completely drain, and we can directly connect up these heavy oil tanks instead.
If this one completely fills, we will likely hook it up in order to allow our oil processing to continue. Which is why it's sometimes useful to have them, the main source of the heavy oil being the one that's cracked, whilst pumping some heavy oil into a reserve tank, specifically for lubricant or other uses, because that makes sure that you're going to always have oil being processed. This just gives us an extra layer of micromanaging, but it's nothing too difficult for us.
Military 3.
Oh, that is glorious. Right, now that is going to give us the combat shotgun. Now this is a biter-based destroyer. If you put some decent shells in this, you are going to wreck face. Also, we'll have the poison capsule and the slowdown capsule. Poison capsule, as the name implies, you throw it, it poisons an area. It's basically a damage over time AoE, and it'll linger for quite some time. Slowdown, again, as the name suggests, it'll just slow things down. Poison capsules, in combination with the combat shotgun, can decimate biter forces with impunity of ease.
Well, I think we've made some good progress here today.
Indeed we have, yes.
Holy crap. I see blue science on our glorious science loop over there.
Indeed, yeah.
We have heavy oil cracking into light oil. We have red circuitry on the main belt, ready to be used for any recipe we wish.
It will be used. Again, it's going to be used a lot.
And again, we've designed a lot of this part of the base for expandability. So if we wish to produce more later on, we can.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain parts that are not as expandable as they could be. For example, this area up here, we can't really expand this any further by taking these electronic circuit production further down. Like, we can't expand it as we have for the red circuits, but we should be okay with what we're producing. Later on, we can move things around if necessary. It's not going to be a large redesign for that one, but it is worth bearing that in mind.
And don't be afraid to move stuff around in your factory.
No,
if you've built yourself into a corner, it happens. It's not a big deal. Just pick it up, move it somewhere else where it's much more comfortable, like we have with the science down here. It's not a problem. If we need to move this production area for our smart inserters, we can do that too. Double it up if we wish. Not a problem.
Before we wrap things up here, I'm just going to note that we have now got science that requires alien science packs. It's starting to show
where's
up.
this? Which one?
The Military 4 tech requires alien science packs.
Aha, yes.
Now this is what is going to be using the loot that we've been getting from alien bases, but only...
The cotton candy.
Yeah, only once we've researched alien technology. Go figure. It isn't a difficult research, and it will use alien artifacts to produce alien, or rather purple science beakers. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to research that one. It's a very simple one. It doesn't unlock anything but the alien science packs, but it'll allow us to actually start filling up the other side of this science belt. And at that point, every technology will be open to us. It's just a matter of researching the prerequisite levels of technology and having, obviously, the time and resources available to make the beakers. But once we've got that, everything is then open to you. We are definitely squarely in the mid-game, I would say, from that point on.
Oh yes, definitely. Now, is it just me? Because they've changed the alien technology icon. It actually used to be the UFO from XCOM, and now
Yes.
It is a canister with a biter in it. It looks like it's being digested by some yellow fluid.
That is quite true, yes. I approve of this new art style. Now, in the next episode, we are likely going to be looking at the different technologies, perhaps even Military 4. I doubt it, though. There are other things that we can focus our attention on. Namely, we wanted to try and improve the infrastructure of our base just a little bit. There's quite a lot of things that we can improve here. We are seeing a little bit of throughput trouble, and perhaps in the fairly near future, we will start looking at robotics, because that does solve a lot of logistical problems.
Sounds good to me, but
Okay.
that'll have to be next time. So thanks for watching, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good day. Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to Shen Plays. I am your host, Shenner, and I'm here with Avak today for some more Factorio Beginner's Guide. How's it going, Avak?
It is going very well, and welcome back, everyone. We do apologise for the short break. Scheduling time where we could both record was a little bit difficult for various reasons, but we are back now. And as you can see, we've not been idle in your absence. Look at all this beautiful concrete.
Yeah, concrete. We talked about it a couple episodes ago about how we want to put down some pavement. You can see we still have some pavement up here by the train, but next to the pavement is concrete. And I've got some in my inventory right now. It increases your walking speed by 40%. And it may not sound like very much, but later on we're going to get some armor that increases walking speed too. And then combine that with the concrete, you just start running around like the Flash. It's fantastic.
Just to quickly cover, the pavement is inferior to concrete in its stated purpose, that is to increase walking speed. I like to have like pavement kind of separators along the walls, and also just purely for aesthetics around the train lines. It's just kind of visual cues. But you'll notice up here that you can't, well, or at least you usually can't, run it right up to water. There's usually a little buffer, so you do have to bear that in mind. It's not a bug. That's actually how it's built. You can't run the paving all the way up to the water's edge. Unfortunately, you do have to have like a 2-tile gap.
I just think of it as more aesthetics then. There's your shoreline.
Yeah.
There you go. So this is all done via this small four factory setup here. We have our old bricks, which is what we used to make the original pavement. We didn't really build too much of the pavement because we wanted to do more concrete, but this is what you use to make concrete. It's a simple recipe of iron ore, water, and bricks. That's it. Simple. So those are going into two boxes. We're just letting them fill up so that we can, I've got 500 in my pocket now. So I could lay down a whole bunch right now. I'm sure Avak could as well.
Yep, well, why don't we? It does help in a lot of ways. And remember that when you're on a conveyor belt, it does stack. So the walking bonus you get for walking with the conveyor belt stacks with the fact that you're on concrete. Don't ask why. It makes no sense, but it is pretty cool all the same.
Run!
Now, the way that this works is you can use plus and minus to increase the area that you're placing this down with. So you can have it really precise, as in one tile. Or you can have it all the way up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like 10 by 10. Yeah.
It's a huge amount of area there.
You will run out of concrete. I'm just going to go
down the main bus and throw down a whole bunch of concrete. Now, as he said, it does stack. So if you're running along a conveyor belt, it adds to the